Good day, my dear grade 9 learners. Good day, my dear colleagues. Today I'm going to present on behalf of Mr. Rantene, who was supposed to present surface area focusing on a cylinder. My name is Mr. Mofokeng L, subject advisor from TMET, and welcome to this lesson 36 of grade 9. It is almost quarter past 2, so let's get started. Right, let's have a look at the definition of a surface area. A surface area is the total number of unit squares used to cover a 3D shape. Surface area, a total number of unit squares used to cover a 3D shapes. In a simpler term, we can say a surface area, it is the sum of areas that make that particular object. All the areas of the faces that make that particular object, we refer to them as surface area. So in other words, for us to get the surface area of a particular prism, we must actually add all the faces, the areas of all the faces. A cylinder is a round three-dimensional shape with a top and a bottom in the shape of a cycle. So in other words, we have these two faces that are identical, that are cycles in a cylinder. Right, and then here it is just an example of the real life objects that are cylinders. I think we are familiar with some or all of them. So they actually represent what a cylinder is. Right, as we have actually indicated that for a cylinder, we have the faces that are cycles. So we are going to use the formula to calculate the area of a cycle. So as a result, we need to actually remind ourselves about the parts of the cycles, but focusing more on the relationship between the radius as well as the diameter. Right, we all know that the diameter, it is a line segment joining one point of a cycle or one point on the circumference of the cycle through the center of the cycle to the other point, to the point on the other side of the center. So it must pass through the center. And then when we talk about the radius, it is the line segment from the center of the cycle to the circumference. So now we will realize that when we talk about a radius, it is a half of a side of a diameter. A radius, it is a half of a diameter. That simply means that in a diameter, we are actually having two radii. In a diameter, we are actually having two radii, which is the plural form of a radius. And then we also have to know what is a circumference, because I've indicated that diameter, one point from a circumference through the center to a point on another side. So circumference, it is a distance around a cycle. A distance around a cycle, we refer to it as a circumference. In other shapes like rectangle, we are talking about the perimeter. But specifically in a circle, we are mainly talking about a circumference. And then again, I've also talked about the center of the cycle. The center of the cycle, it is the point which is equidistant from each and every point from the circumference of the cycle. A point which is equidistant from each and every point on the circumference of the cycle. Right, so I think it is very much important that we acclimatize with the terminology because we are going to need them. Right, so let's start in the beginning. Before you can do surface area of a cylinder, you have to know the following formula. One, we have to know a formula to calculate area of a cycle. Area of a cycle, it is calculated by multiplying a pi with a radius squared. We get the area of a cycle when we multiply a pi with a radius squared. A pi, it is a relationship of a diameter as well as the circumference. Relationship between a diameter and the circumference. That relationship, it is in the form of a division. We get pi when we divide a diameter with, the circumference with the diameter. That's when we get this pi. The value of pi, we normally use the value of pi as 3,14. This 3,14, it is an approximate value of pi. It is just approximate value of a pi. Because pi, the value of a pi, it is irrational. We cannot be able to use all this decimal places. We prefer to use up to a particular decimal places. Right. And then when we come to the circumference of the cycle, which is the perimeter of a cycle, it is calculated by multiplying pi with the diameter, or if we prefer to use radius, it means it will be 2 pi radius because we have 2 radius in a pi. In a diameter. Right, moving forward. Now, let's have a look at the formula to calculate the surface area of a prism. Remember, the prism, it is formed of 2 identical cycles as well as a rectangle which is folded. So in other words, for us to get that the area of that, we must actually unfold that rectangle. And now, if we do that, it gives us the area of a rectangle. We know that it is length times breadth. But in this case, a length will be the circumference of the cycle. And then the breadth will be the height of the prism. So in this case, we are given the formula that we use to calculate any prism. We can be able to use the formula surface area is equals to P times H plus 2B, where SA represents surface area, where P represents perimeter of the base of any prism, B represents the area of the base of the prism, and H represents the height of the prism. But specifically when we come to the surface area of a cylinder, this will be the formula that we'll be using for the surface area. The surface area of a cylinder will be 2 pi RH. This 2 pi RH, it is for that part of a rectangle. It is for that part of a rectangle. So This, remember we said this distance, it is that part of the circumference, and it will give us 2 pi r. And this side, it will be the height of the prism. So for us to get this area, we will have 2 pi r multiplied by the height. This is 2 pi r. So 2 pi r multiplied by the height will give us the area of that rectangle. And then another part will be for these 2 circles that are identical, of which we will have the radius. And if you check now, for us to find the area of one cycle, it will be pi r squared. So how many pi r squared do we have? We have 2 pi r squared. That is why we are having a surface area of a cylinder as 2 pi r h plus 2 pi r squared. This 2 pi r squared is this for this the area of these 2 cycles, and 2 pi r h, it is for the rectangle. So moving forward, now let's have a look at this. This is what I've talked about. We have this as a cycle. We have this as a cycle because they are both on the end side of the cylinder. And also we are having this a rectangle. This rectangle, it means I have alluded to the fact that it will be the length will be the distance of the circumference of the cycle, which will be 2 pi r. And then this will be the height of the cylinder. And then we will be having 2 pi r squared, 2 pi r h plus 2 pi r squared. Right, so let's move on. Like here, the length of the rectangle is the same as the circumference of the cycle. Right, so if we move forward, here it is the cylinder. What does it take to make this cylinder? We know that it will be 2 cycles as well as 1 rectangle. So we have talked about it. So if we want the surface area of this, it means it will be 2 pi r, and this 2 pi r will give us 2 multiplied by half of 6. It means half of 6, it will be 3. So this 3 will be this 3, and then we will have the circumference as 6 pi. Therefore, the area will be 6 pi h, which will be 6 times 10. And then this side, it will be 18 pi. So you add it, and then you'll get the total surface area. And then moving forward, again, we are just showing this will be the area of a cycle, a squared pi r squared, and then our radius is 4. So that means pi multiplied by 4 squared, it will give us this value, which is only 1 cycle. And then we come to the rectangle. The rectangle part, we are having circumference as 22,12. We multiply that circumference, and then ultimately we will get 250 for the rectangle. So as you can see, these are the calculations. Right, and then we also have the activity 1. Activity 1, Sophie has an old cylindrical water tank at her home. She want to replace this one with the same tank. So as a result, for us to help Sophie to calculate the surface area, it will be surface area is 2 pi r h plus 2 pi r squared. And then as you do the calculations, then you'll get 47 47,728. Right, and then activity 2, the cylinder below has a surface area of 972 pi centimeter squared. So the key thing here is that notify what is given. You are given surface area. So as you go to the formula, you'll substitute for surface area, and you'll substitute the value of x, which is represented as radius, as diameter. So in this case, we will just substitute the values. For 2 pi r, it will be the radius. In this instance, this x, it is not a diameter, it is a radius. This is a radius. So our radius will be x. We substitute x with we substitute radius with x. We substitute the height with 5x. That is why you see the height being 5x, and then you work it out, and then you multiply, you manipulate, and then ultimately you'll get the value of x being 9 centimeters. So the value of x, which is our radius, will be 9 centimeters. Right, and then moving forward, thank you very much, my dear grade 9 learners. It marks the end of our session, and then hope you enjoyed the lesson, and you will enjoy the next lesson. Thank you very much. Enjoy the day.